Hi class, good day. For this video, pag-uusapan natin on how to find the resultant force. This is a topic in statics of rigid bodies. The scalar components Rx and Ry of the resultant R of several forces acting on a particle are obtained by adding algebraically the corresponding scalar components of the given forces. In getting the resultant of our force system, we must first get our Rx. Next is our Ry. Take note, yung Rx and Ry natin is always 90 degrees with each other. So, pwede natin siyang applyan ng Pythagorean theorem. Meaning, this will be our R, which is our hypotenuse. So, based on our Pythagorean theorem, we have R squared is equivalent to Ry squared plus Rx squared. So, ilipat lang natin si squared sa kabila, magiging square root of Ry squared plus Rx squared. We must also find the direction of our resultant by using this formula. Tangent of theta is equivalent to Ry divided by Rx. Take note that this theta is always nakadikit sa ating x-axis. So for example, ito yung ating resultant, ito yung ating theta. Ito yung ating resultant, nandito yung ating theta. If this is our resultant, nandito yung ating theta, and for example, ito yung ating resultant, so ito yung ating theta. So yung formula natin always nasa taas si Ry, nasa baba si Rx. So para ma-apply natin, we have here our examples. Determine the resultant of the coplanar concurrent forces shown. Components are indicated by dashed vectors. In this problem, medyo madali lang siya kasi binigay na sa atin yung ating mga x and y components. So all we need to do is to have the summation in our x-axis and y-axis. So let's start. We have summation of forces in our x-axis where all right side forces is positive. So unahin natin tong force na to. Ito yung second, third, and fourth. So kung ikaw, if you are solving, pwede naman din kahit sino yung unahin mo basta nandoon lang lahat ng forces natin. So eto, we have 260 that is positive. So lagay natin Rx is equivalent to positive 260. Eto is 306, papunta tayo sa left, so negative 306. Next one, we have our 600. Which is going to the left, so negative 600. Last one, we have 160, which is going to the right, so positive 160 po tayo. Input natin class, 260 minus 306 minus 600 plus 160. That is equivalent to negative 486. Rx is equivalent to negative 486 pounds. Let us proceed sa ating y-axis, summation of forces in our y-axis where all upward forces is positive. So Ry is equivalent to, unahin natin dito, 150 going upward, so positive 150. Next is 257 going upward, so that is positive 257. Next is we have 400 going downward, which is negative, so negative 400. And then last, we have our 120, which is going downward, that is negative 120. So that is 150 plus 257 minus 400 minus 120 equals negative 113. So Ry is equivalent to negative 113 pounds. Meron na tayong Ry and Rx, so we can solve for our R. That is resultant is equivalent to the square root of our Ry squared plus Rx squared. So sulat natin that is equivalent to negative 113 squared plus negative 486 squared, then lahat sila is naka-square root. Input natin, we have the square root of negative 113 squared plus negative 486 squared. That is equivalent to 498.964 pounds. So resultant is equivalent to 498.964 pounds. This will be our final answer. So nakuha na natin yung ating magnitude class. All we need to do is to solve for our direction, which is our angle theta. Take note, yung ating formula is tangent of theta is equivalent to Ry divided by Rx. So angle theta is equivalent to tangent raised to negative 1 of our Ry, which is negative 113, divided by our Rx, which is negative 486. Ilagay natin shift tan of negative 113 divided by negative 486 equals 13.089 degrees. But what if wala siya sa choices class? So pindutin lang natin tong degree, minutes, and seconds. Magiging 13 degrees, 5 minutes, and 21.45 seconds. So angle theta is equivalent to 13.089 degrees. Or pwede ding the angle theta is equivalent to 13 degrees, 5 minutes, and 21.45 seconds. Final answer. What if class, hinahanap kung ano yung ating sketch ng ating resultant. So drawing lang natin. This is our y-axis. This is our x-axis. So yung ating Rx is negative and yung ating Ry is also negative. So nasa third quadrant siya. Kasi negative sa x, papunta sa left. Negative sa y, papunta tayo sa ilalim. So this will be our R, which is 498.964, and this will be our angle theta, which is 13 degrees, 5 minutes, 21.45 seconds. Let us proceed sa ating second example, but before that, please click our subscribe button if you want contents like this. So determine the resultant of the coplanar concurrent forces shown. So binigyan tayo ng 4 na forces, we need to solve for its resultant. Para hindi tayo malito, lagyan natin ng label. This is our force 1, this is our force 2, force 3, and force 4. So let's start. We have summation of forces in our x-axis where all right side forces is positive para makuha natin si Rx. Let's start with our force 1. Papunta po siya sa right. So that is positive 300. Next, analyze natin. Etong side na to is adjacent. Kapag adjacent is cosine. So this is cosine of 30 degrees. Proceed tayo kay force 2. Papunta po siya sa left. So that is negative 224. Multiply natin sa ating common triangle. But first, we need to solve for the hypotenuse of this triangle. So input lang natin sa ating calculator, that is the square root of 1 square plus 2 square. The square root of 1 square plus 2 square is equivalent to square root of 5. Lagay natin square root of 5. So again, negative 224, multiply natin siya sa ating x-axis. So yung x-axis natin dito is yung nakahiga, which is si 2. Divided by its hypotenuse, which is square root of 5. So lagay natin square root of 5. Next is our third force, which is si 200 pounds. That is also going to the left, so that is negative 200. Analyze natin. This side is our adjacent side of this triangle, so this will be cosine of 60 degrees. Last one is this force, 390, which is going to the right, so that is positive, 390. Gamitan natin ng common triangle, so we need to solve for its hypotenuse. So input lang natin the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared. That is the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13. So the hypotenuse for this triangle is 13. Proceed tayo. X component natin is nakahiga, so we will be using 5 kasi nakahiga din siya. That is 5 divided by 13. Calculator natin yan lahat. We have 300 cosine of 30 minus 224 multiplied by 2 over the square root of 5 minus 200 cosine of 60 plus 390 multiplied by 5 over 13. It is equivalent to 109.456 pounds. So, Rx natin is equivalent to 109.456 pounds. Let us proceed with our summation of forces in our y-axis where all upward forces is positive para masolve natin si Ry. That is equivalent to, unahin natin to na force that is going upward. So this is positive 300. Analyze natin, our y component is opposite to our angle, so we will be using sine of 30 degrees. Next is this force which is going upward, so that is positive 224 multiplied by our common triangle, yung 1 yung nakatayo, so 1 divided by square root of 5. So yung nakatayo na side yung ating i-multiply divided by our hypotenuse. Next is for our 200 na force which is going downward, so this is negative 200. Y component natin is the opposite of our angle, so we will be using sine of 60 degrees. Last is this force which is going downward, so we have negative 390 multiplied by 12 kasi yung 12 yung nakatayo. Nakatayo din yung ating y component. So lagay natin 12 divided by 13. Input natin yan lahat. We have 300 sine of 30 plus 224 times 1 divided by the square root of 5 minus 200 sine of 60 and minus 390 multiplied by 12 over 13 equals negative 283.029. So Ry is equivalent to negative 283.029 pounds. Meron na tayong Ry and Rx. We can solve for our resultant that is equivalent to the square root of our negative 283.029 squared, which is our Ry squared, plus 109.456 squared, which is our Rx squared, then lahat sila naka-square root. Input natin, that is the square root of negative 283.029 squared plus 109.456 squared. That is equivalent to 303.457 pounds. Resultant is equivalent to 303.457 pounds. Final answer. Syempre, we need our direction, so that is our angle theta. That is tangent of theta is equivalent to our Ry divided by our Rx. So, angle theta is equivalent to tangent raised to negative 1 of our Ry, which is negative 283.029 divided by our Rx, which is 109.456. So in our angle theta, pwede natin tanggalin lahat ng negative sign kasi nakadikit lang siya parate sa ating x-axis. So input natin, shift tan of 283.029 divided by 109.456. That is equivalent to 68.857 degrees. Pag wala sa choices, pwede mong gawing degree, minutes, and seconds. That is 68 degrees, 51 minutes, and 25.14 seconds. We have our angle theta is equivalent to 68.857 degrees, or that is equivalent to 68 degrees, 51 minutes, and 25.14 seconds. This will be our final answer. Quick sketch natin, class, kung saan siya banda. That is our y-axis and x-axis. Rx natin is positive, Ry natin is negative, so nasa fourth quadrant siya. So this will be our R and this will be our angle theta. Let us proceed sa ating third example. Determine the resultant of the coplanar concurrent forces shown. So sa example na to, wala tayong angle na binigay, puro siya rise and run. So first thing that we need to do is to find the hypotenuse of each triangles. Unahin natin to. This will be our second force, third, and fourth force. So input natin lahat. Unahin natin yung hypotenuse ni force 1. We have square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5. Next is kay force 2. We have the square root of 1 squared plus 2 squared equals square root of 5. Kay force 3, we have the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13. And for our last force, we have the square root of 2 squared plus 3 squared. That's equivalent to square root of 13. So based sa ating calculations, yung hypotenuse natin dito is 5. Dito is square root of 5. Dito is 13. And dito is square root of 13. So let's start solving our forces. We have summation of forces in x-axis where all right side forces is positive. So ito, para makuha natin si Rx, that is equivalent to, unahin natin si force 1, that is going to the right. So this is positive 600 multiplied by nakahiga natin na force, which is 4, divided by our hypotenuse 5. Next is our force 2. Papunta po tayo sa ating left side. So this is negative 448 multiplied by nakahiga natin ang side ng triangle. That is 1 kasi nakahiga yung ating force x. This 1 divided by hypotenuse 5. Next is force 3. Papunta din siya sa ating left side. So this is negative 260 multiplied sa ating side ng triangle na nakahiga, which is 12. So that is 12 divided by hypotenuse 13. Last is this force. Papunta po siya sa ating right side. So this is positive 361 multiplied sa nakahiga natin na side ng triangle, which is 3 divided by its hypotenuse square root of 13. Input natin lahat. We have 600 multiplied by 4 over 5 minus 448 multiplied by 1 over the square root of 5 minus 260 multiplied by 12 over 13 and plus 361 multiplied by 3 over the square root of 13. So our Rx is 340.018 pounds. Rx is equivalent to 340.018 pounds. Next is for our summation of forces in y-axis where all upward forces is positive para sa ating Ry. That is equivalent to, unahin natin to na force, papunta po siya sa taas. So that is positive 600. So yung nakatayo natin is si 3. So that is 3 divided by 5. Next is this force, which is going upward. So we have positive 448. And then yung side ng triangle na naka-upward, which is 2 divided by square root of 5. Proceed tayo dito, papunta siya sa ilalim, so that is negative 260 multiplied by our side na nakatayo, which is 5 divided by 13, which is our hypotenuse. Last, we have this force papunta sa ilalim, so negative 361 multiplied by yung ating side ng triangle na nakatayo, which is 2, divided by hypotenuse, which is square root of 13. Input natin, we have 600 multiplied by 3 over 5 plus 448 multiplied by 2 over the square root of 5 minus 260 multiplied by 5/13 minus 361 multiplied by 2 over the square root of 13 is equivalent to 460.457. So, RY po natin is equivalent to 460.457 pounds. So, meron na tayong RY and RX. We can solve for our resultant, which is equivalent to the square root of our RY, which is 460.457 squared, plus our RX, which is 340.018 squared. So, lahat siya naka-square root, and then calculator natin. Square root of 460.457 squared plus 340.018 squared. The answer is 572.392 pounds. So, lagay natin R is equivalent to 572.392 pounds. Final answer. Next will be our angle theta, that is tangent of theta is equivalent to Ry over Rx. So, lipat natin sa kabila. We have angle theta of tangent raised to -1 of our Ry, which is 460.457 divided by our Rx, which is 340.018. Let's calculate shift tan of 460.457 divided by 340.018. That is equivalent to 53.557 degrees. Pero pag wala sa choices, that is 53 degrees, 33 minutes, and 23.43 seconds. Angle theta is equivalent to 53.557 degrees, or that is equivalent to 53 degrees, 33 minutes, 23.43 seconds. This will be our final answer. So, quick sketch lang natin, class, to represent our resultant. We have our y-axis and x-axis. Tapos, Rx natin is positive, Ry is positive. So, yung resultant natin is nasa first quadrant. And this is our angle theta. So, let us proceed to our last problem for this video. Knowing that the tension in rope AC is 365 newtons, determine the resultant forces exerted at point C of post BC. So, nakalagay sa ating problem, class, na yung rope daw natin is hinihila yung ating post at point C, which is 365 newtons. So, we have two forces, 500 newton and 200 newton. Ang binigay sa atin is its rise and run and its hypotenuse. So, dito, lagyan din natin ng rise and run and its hypotenuse. So, this is 960. This is 1,100. And our hypotenuse is 1,460. So, overall, we have three forces. Pangalanan natin, force 1, force 2, and our force 3. So, same process pa din tayo. Kukunin muna natin si Rx, then Ry, then our resultant. So, summation of forces in our x-axis, where all right side forces is positive. Para makuha natin si Rx, that is equivalent to 500 natin is going to the right. So, that is positive 500. So, nakahiga siya. So, yung gagamitin natin is si 24 kasi nakahiga din siya, divided by its hypotenuse, which is 25. Next is this force. Papunta din siya sa ating right side. So, this is positive 200 multiplied by our side of our triangle na nakahiga, which is 4, divided by 5, which is our hypotenuse. Next is this force, which is going to our left side. So, that is negative 365 multiplied by its run, which is 960 kasi nakahiga siya. That is 960 divided by hypotenuse 1460. So calculator natin, we have 500 multiplied by 24 over 25 plus 200 multiplied by 4 over 5 minus 365 multiplied by 960 divided by 1460 equals 400. So Rx is equivalent to 400 Newton. Proceed tayo kay summation of forces in our y-axis where all upward forces is positive. So gagamitin natin to para makuha si Ry. That is equivalent to, unahin natin tong first force natin going upward is positive 500. Next is 7 yung gagamitin natin kasi nakatayo siya, divided by 25. Next is this force which is going downward, so that is negative 200 multiplied by our 3 kasi nakatayo siya, divided by our hypotenuse 5. Last one is this force which is going downward, so that is negative 365 multiplied by its rise, which is 1,100 kasi nakatayo siya, divided by our hypotenuse 1,460. Calculator natin class, we have 500 multiplied by 7 over 25 minus 200 multiplied by 3 over 5 minus 365 multiplied by 1,100 over 1,460. It is equivalent to negative 255. So Ry natin class is equivalent to negative 255 Newton. Meron na tayong Ry and Rx. We can solve for our resultant which is equivalent to the square root of negative 255 squared plus 400 squared. Input natin, we have the square root of negative 255 squared plus 400 squared. That is 474.368 newtons. So our reaction is equivalent to 474.368 newtons. Final answer. Last is our angle theta, which is tangent theta is equivalent to Ry over Rx. So angle theta is equivalent to tangent raised to negative 1 of our Ry, which is negative 255. Pwede naman ding hindi lagyan ng negative kasi nakadikit lang palagi yung ating angle theta sa ating x-axis. Divided by our Rx, which is 400. So angle theta is equivalent to shift tan of 255 divided by 400 is equivalent to 32.518 degrees. Pag wala sa choices, pwede ding 32 degrees, 31 minutes, and 3.04 seconds. So angle theta is equivalent to 32.518 degrees. Or pwede din siyang 32 degrees, 31 minutes, and 3.04 seconds. This is our final answer. So, quick sketch lang po tayo kung saan yung location ng ating reaction. That is, Rx is positive, Ry is negative, so nasa fourth quadrant po tayo. This is our R, and this will be our angle theta. So that is the end for this video. Again, class, thank you for listening. See you again sa ating next videos.